The Japanese surrender on Cebu, Philippines, August 28, 1945. As you watch this footage, you are witnessing real historical events. The surrender of Japanese forces in Cebu, Philippines, on August 28, 1945. This pivotal moment occurred just days after Japan's formal acceptance of defeat, which came on August 15th, following the catastrophic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The images captured here serve as a powerful reminder of the war's end in the Pacific and the profound impact it had on the lives of millions. The surrender on Cebu was not just an isolated event. It was the culmination of a lengthy and brutal conflict that had engulfed the Philippines since the early days of World War II. To fully understand the significance of this surrender, we must first explore the broader context of the war, the battles that led up to this moment, and the conditions under which the Japanese forces were compelled to lay down their arms. Background of the war. World War II in the Pacific began in earnest after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The rapid expansion of Japanese military power across Asia and the Pacific was characterized by a series of aggressive campaigns that resulted in the capture of vast territories, including the Philippines, Malaya, and much of the Pacific Islands. The Philippines, a U.S. territory at the time, was subjected to a brutal occupation that began in early 1942. The fall of Bataan in April 1942, and the infamous Bataan Death March, where thousands of Filipino and American prisoners were forced to march under inhumane conditions, underscored the harsh realities of Japanese rule. As the war progressed, the tide began to turn against Japan. Key victories for the Allies, including the Battle of Midway in June 1942 and the Philippines Campaign, 1944 to 1945, started to shift momentum. General Douglas MacArthur's famous return to the Philippines in October 1944 signified a commitment to liberate the archipelago from Japanese occupation. The campaign involved intense battles on several islands, culminating in a relentless push toward Japan. The Battle for Cebu. Cebu, the Philippines' second-largest island, was strategically important for the Japanese due to its location and resources. As the Allies advanced through the Philippines in 1945, Cebu became a target for liberation. The island had been fortified by Japanese forces, who prepared for a potential assault from the approaching U.S. troops. In mid-August 1945, U.S. forces, primarily from the 8th Army and 10th Army, landed on Cebu to engage in a series of operations aimed at neutralizing Japanese resistance. The battle was characterized by fierce combat as American troops faced determined Japanese defenders. The fighting was intense, with soldiers employing various tactics, including infantry assaults and artillery bombardments. Despite the valiant efforts of the Japanese troops, the overwhelming firepower and strategic planning of the U.S. forces led to significant advances. The Americans systematically cleared key areas on the island, cutting off Japanese supply lines and isolating their forces. As the situation deteriorated for the Japanese, they realized that further resistance was futile. The surrender. On August 28, 1945, with the war effectively over following Japan's formal surrender on August 15th, Japanese commanders on Cebu faced a grim reality. The surrender of Japanese forces on the island was facilitated by negotiations between U.S. military officials and Japanese commanders, recognizing the impossibility of continuing the fight. Major General Takeo Yoshida, the commander of the Japanese forces on Cebu, officially surrendered, leading to the disarmament of his troops and the cessation of hostilities on the island. The surrender was marked by a ceremony that included the lowering of the Japanese flag and the raising of the American flag, symbolizing the end of Japanese military control in the region. The event was not only a moment of relief for the local population, who had endured years of occupation and suffering, but it also marked the beginning of the rehabilitation process for the Philippines as they transitioned from wartime devastation to peace, aftermath, and significance. The surrender of Japanese forces in Cebu was part of a broader narrative of liberation and recovery in the Philippines. The Philippine people, who had suffered greatly during the occupation, welcomed the return of American forces and began the arduous task of rebuilding their lives and infrastructure. The end of hostilities allowed for the return of displaced civilians, and the initiation of humanitarian efforts to address the needs of those affected by the war. The Japanese surrender on Cebu also had broader implications for the region and the world. It signified the conclusion of a brutal chapter in the Pacific War, where millions had suffered and perished. As the US and Allied forces focused on post-war reconstruction, the surrender represented a crucial step toward restoring stability and re-establishing governance in the Philippines. In conclusion, the surrender of Japanese forces on Cebu on August 28, 1945, was a significant event in the annals of World War II, illustrating the complexities of warfare, the struggles faced by soldiers and civilians, and the eventual triumph of peace and recovery in the Philippines. The bravery exhibited by both American and Filipino forces during the campaign remains a testament to the resilience of those who fought for freedom and sovereignty in a time of darkness.